What up, y'all? So, today I'm going to be going over my thoughts on the Philippines as a whole. I'm going to be going over the pros and cons, and for sure there was mainly pros, but I do want to touch up a little bit on some of the things that were kind of negative in my mind on the Philippines. So, to start off, we'll go with the pros. Obviously, it's pretty beautiful everywhere. Obviously, all the islands and beaches are beautiful. The boat tours are definitely the thing you want to check out the most in the Philippines, in my opinion. And that was some of the most amazing stuff I saw was in El Nido and Coron. So those you take out the A, B, C, D tours. They all have like a little bit of a different flavor, or you can rent out a private boat, which if you're with a group, I definitely suggest. So all that shit was awesome. Let's see, the food was surprisingly good, at least in my opinion. A lot of barbecued meats, and they had hot sauces everywhere, and I'm a big fan of spicy stuff, so that was definitely really cool. There was a ton of variety and things to do depending on where you're at. When I was in Bohol, I got to see the tarsier monkeys, and when I was in Badian, I did the canyoneering. So yeah, a lot of different cool shit to do, for sure. Let's see what else. The people are actually by far the friendliest I've met out of anywhere I've been. Like, you're driving around on a scooter and people are just like, ah, ah, like waving you down. The little kids will jump up and come and grab onto you, latch onto you. They want you to throw them up and play around with them and shit. Yeah, just really, really friendly people. The locals will go out of their way to help you out. They'll drink with you. I remember one night in Badian, we were there drinking with some of the locals. They were playing guitar outside of a 7-Eleven and just gave us free beer all night. It was like the mayor, it was the relative of the mayor of Badian, actually. I originally thought it was the mayor at first, but he corrected me. Let's see what else. Oh, the pricing. So pricing on hotels was actually a little bit more expensive in Thailand, I would say, depending on the area. Now, if you're in Coron or El Nido, those areas are all kind of marked up pretty high, so you're looking at least at like a minimum of $20 to $25 for like a pretty basic hotel, which, you know, obviously in Thailand you can get for cheaper. And I didn't really look into the hostels because I was staying with Bianca, so we were able to split the costs. But overall, not too terrible. And yeah, it got a little bit better as we got away from like the super touristy islands. Like I said, El Nido and Coron were by far the most expensive. The food pricing, I would say just a tad higher than Thailand. So meals were running about $3 a plate, maybe sometimes $4. Obviously you can scale up to, you know, $10 if you wanted to get crazy, or do some fine dining or whatnot. So yeah, not too terrible. Beer pricing was excellent. It was even cheaper than Thailand. San Miguel, baby. So it's, you get a San Miguel, they had a San Miguel Red Horse that was 7%, and it was literally like, I think like 70 cents or something. And that was like when you get it at a bar. It's like 45 pesos. I definitely drank a lot more than I wanted to, because it was so fucking cheap. Sometimes it was even cheaper than water. Like, you'd pick up a water and it would be like 55 pesos, and then you'd pick up a beer and it would be like 45, and you're like, well, what the fuck? Yeah, like with anything, the transport can kind of vary quite a bit. They definitely mark it up for tourists, so if you know how to bargain, that's definitely a plus, and you should definitely always try to when you're renting out a taxi or anything that's not like corporate set. So in Philippines, they had these little tricycles, or like little motorcycles with a sidecar. It's a little bit different from Thailand and their tuk-tuks. Similar concept though, to where you can bargain your price down quite a bit. So always try to, when they offer you a price, go like 50% and kind of weed your way into the 60% range or something like that. That usually works out pretty well. And keep in mind, when you are arriving at a new place and you're trying to get to your hotel, definitely don't take a taxi right off of like the boat or right off of the airport. You want to at least walk like a few hundred meters down a little bit, and you'll seem to get close to half the price sometimes by just doing that little effort, because there's all these vultures that show up like right when you get off the boat. Taxi, taxi, sir, taxi, sir, taxi, sir, ma'am, taxi. So yeah, you gotta say fuck you to those guys and just walk on a little bit, and you'll get way better prices on the taxis and tricycles. So yeah, keep that in mind. Okay, so now on to some of the more negatives. Well, I'll start with fucking Manila. So if you can avoid Manila at all costs, that airport is fucking shit. It's fucking giant. It's crowded as shit. It doesn't have a logical layout. It takes forever to get to point A to point B, and it's just a shit show. So if you can fly into Cebu has an airport. It obviously depends on where you're making your next flight out to, because sometimes Cebu doesn't have as many options as Manila. But if you can, fuck Manila, avoid Manila. Let's see some of the other negatives. Just in general, the transport is not as easy and as logical as you think it would be. It's definitely a lot more difficult than Thailand. So in Thailand, you can kind of just wing it, like hop on a ferry, go here, go there. Like you can get around to the islands easy. There's always buses and boats going everywhere, and you can book them last minute. Now, in the Philippines, since there's 7,000 different islands and so many different options and flight paths and whatnot, it can be difficult to find one to the certain area that you're trying to go to. So for example, when we went to El Nido, we're trying to get from Manila to El Nido, we actually had to fly into Puerto Princesa, which is like way south of El Nido, and catch a bus ride 5 hours up north to just get to El Nido, because we wanted to get to that El Nido Coron area, and they're right next to each other. The pricing on shit is actually a lot more spending than I thought it would be, at least for planes and stuff, because a lot of the times you just can't find anything near the dates you're going to be there on, so you have to pay their prices, or you have to try to find a long ass boat that's going to get you to where you need to be. But if you're only there for, you know, half a month or whatever, you don't really have time to travel around to multiple spots and not take a plane, because the boat rides just eat up too much of your time. So another big negative is the fucking Wi-Fi is shit in a lot of places in the Philippines, especially in the El Nido and Coron area. Almost every hotel we booked at would claim that they had Wi-Fi, and it just wasn't working, or it was barely working. And this is the case with a lot of those spots in the Philippines. They'll claim online to have working Wi-Fi, and you look at the reviews and everyone says the same thing, like Wi-Fi doesn't work, and that's, you know, across the board. Now I don't know if this is the case if you scale up and you go for a little bit more spendy of the spot, maybe drop like $30 or $40 a night on a spot. For me, I'm on a more strict budget, so I was staying to spots that were in the less than $20 range a night. So that could definitely be a factor. It's something to keep in mind. Obviously I talked about transport earlier. Even like getting a simple boat from El Nido to Coron, which is like 2 hours, and you figure they'd be running that shit all day long. It only had one time, 8:30, so we ended up having to stay in El Nido an extra day just because they didn't have multiple boats running a day on a logical route like they would in Thailand. And it could be because it's a low season, but that's definitely something to keep in mind though. When you get to a spot, make sure that you get all your boats sorted right away, because you can't wing it like you can in Thailand. So the verdict, Philippines is awesome. Aside from the slight setbacks on the transportation and dealing with Manila and some other shit, it was still an amazing experience, and for sure check it out. So that is my take on the Philippines.